Hi, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Sisters and Scrubs. I'm Dr. Rebecca, a family doctor.
And I'm Dr. Vanessa, a pharmacist.
And today we decided to talk about something we see very often at the clinic, why your unrealistic expectations are actually sabotaging your weight loss progress. So let's dig in, Vanessa. Why do we see this often at the clinic? Let's talk about examples probably of patients that we've had going through this mindset that is really putting them back in their journey to get to their healthier weights.
So, a lot of people that measure their weight loss success also measure it in a frame of time. So, we have some patients that come and see us, and one of the first questions that we ask them during their first assessment is, what are your goals? What are your objectives? What brings you here? Now, some people might have different goals. I want to reduce my risk of developing diabetes, cholesterol, chronic conditions, or I actually do have chronic conditions that I want to kind of control. But some people also come to us and say, I'm willing or I want to lose weight in a set amount of time. So sometimes those expectations are not realistic. So we kind of have to sit down with our patients and really kind of explain the science behind weight loss. So most people that fail at weight loss is not because they're disciplined, but mainly because they give themselves this frame of time in which they have to achieve their goals. Now, it might be motivating and sometimes it is a positive thing to do, but when your expectations are not realistic, that's when it kind of sets you back.
Not only a time frame, but also the amount of weight that they have in mind that they want to lose. For example, we have patients that tell us, oh, I was able to lose 20 to 30 pounds very easily in the past. And let's say 30 years later, their expectation is to lose that amount of weight in the same amount of time. And they've tried the same thing that they used to do before, and it's not working. So that really, really demotivates them. They give up very easily because they're not able to get the same results with the same thing that they used to do in the past. And there's a reason why things that worked 20 years ago are not going to work 20 years later. Our body changes, our metabolism changes, our muscle mass changes, hormone change, and we need to work with our body. And this is what we explain to our patients.
And that's why at the clinic, really get you on the in-body composition scale because it tells us a lot about where you're currently at. What is your current muscle mass? What is your current fat mass? How is the muscle and fat kind of dispersed all over your body? We also do a full assessment during the first appointment. We prescribe, blood panels to really see where things are and why things are not working. So when we kind of meet you where you're at, then we can kind of see the progress. But if you're always stuck in the past, and trying to do the things that were working prior, whereas your body is not where it was before, obviously you're not going to see the results that you want to see. Another thing actually that I feel like personally is hindering sometimes weight loss progress in certain people is the comparison. Because social media is so prevalent nowadays, we really see a lot of before afters, which is really good because it keeps you kind of motivated and you kind of want to imitate that. But what we don't see is the in between. So the before afters that you see most of the time, it's not from a 6 to 12 week program. It's progress throughout years, and we don't see
The struggle.
the struggles in between. Progress is not always going to be linear. Sometimes it goes up and it stagnates, then it goes up, goes down. So we don't see that from social media. We only see the good, but not necessarily the bad. So that's where I feel like sometimes people should be mindful of.
Another thing with social media, though, is that let's say influencers, they post about, oh, I did this diet and I was able to lose 30 pounds, or I did this exercise and I was able to lose all my fat. But the problem is what they're doing worked for them, but it doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to work for the person watching this video. So we have a lot of patients that have tried multiple things. They've cut carbs, they've lowered their fat, they've done extreme cardio exercises, they've done things left and right, but they were not able to achieve the same results as the person that was demonstrating these things, and they end up getting frustrated. Or let's say we have influencers that sell different supplements, different programs, promising a certain result. So patients have tried a million things, have spent a lot of money with these products and these programs, but have not been able to achieve it because A, it was not personalized, B, it doesn't mean that it's going to work for everybody. And we really have to analyze your body type, your metabolism, where you are to give you something more personalized so that it can actually work.
And sometimes on social media, these fitness or these influencers, a lot of times are sponsored by these supplement companies. So it becomes difficult as a patient or just as a regular person to discern what's real and what's not
Yeah.
real. So it's really important to base yourself on science backed facts when it comes to weight loss. What we do know is that yes, strength training is the primary driver to increase muscle mass and reduce fat mass. But getting started on your strength training journey is different for everybody. And that's when it becomes important to have a one on one basis or something that's more structured and personalized according to your body type and according to where you are at the moment. So I think that social media is a really big part of people kind of comparing themselves and then setting unrealistic expectations. And even at the clinic, we have some patients that come and see us at our first appointment and they tell us, oh, my friend did this, and she lost X amount of weight. I want to do the same thing. Or, we do treat patients sometimes on medication as well. So my friend took this, I want to take it as well.
And it
It worked for,
works.
doesn't work for everybody. And each body, each person reacts to different things differently. So it's really important to have a personalized program.
And another thing to keep in mind when you're looking at social media is that people are trying to go viral sometimes and they're trying to gain followers. They're trying to, it's basically more, I would say, selfish more than anything else. Like, obviously, some people, like health professionals, I find that are on social media, most of them want to help and give educational information.
Some influencers as well, like
Yeah, influencers as
some
well.
influencers, but again, they should have the credentials to back it up.
So they want, sometimes when they're posting things, they want to be viral. So they post something that is, controversial,
Something that's out of
out of the
norm.
box. So it doesn't mean that it's something that we have to take, to the T, we have to listen to the T. We have to be more mindful and have a critique when we're listening to these types of things on social media. But at the end of the day, when you have tried things left and right and you have certain expectations because you're seeing it in front of you on social media, just be mindful that if it's not working for you, there's a reason for it. You might need something that is more personalized for you in order to sustain it. It doesn't mean that it won't work. It might work, but you might not be able to sustain the results long term.
And another thing that I think most people don't want to talk about or don't kind of say as much is the reason why some people don't see progress is because they don't stick it out long enough to actually see it.
Yeah.
So, like we were talking about it before, they set themselves unrealistic expectations. I want to lose X amount of weight in 6 to 8 weeks. You don't actually stick to a program long enough to see real long-term sustainable results. In most cases, you need at least a year to see progress, to actually see something that's going to last. If you're losing weight in 6 to 8 weeks, then you're going to regain the weight in 6 to 8 weeks. So we want to focus on, at least at the clinic, we focus on long-term sustainable results. So we want something that's going to take time. We actually want it to take a little bit of time,
Yeah.
so that we know that you're putting in the work, the foundation is set, so that you don't lose your results if, let's say, you're going on a trip for a week, or if you're 2 weeks off of track. So that's why it becomes important to set the foundations in place, because as long as the foundations are in place, nothing around it is going to kind of shake it up. So
Yeah.
it's
Another thing,
important you stick it out and actually give yourself the time to see the results.
of course. And another thing we see often at the clinic is, patients that we've been following that are very good, let's say, in the food logging aspect. So they've been logging their food, everything's going well, they have a high protein diet, they get the gist of what we're trying to teach them in the nutrition aspect. But the unrealistic expectation, I would say, in that is they want to see the results because they're very accurate in the nutrition aspect, but they're not very, I'm not going to say accurate or good, but they're not following through on the strength training aspect. So nutrition is one piece of the puzzle. That's what we have to keep in mind. So if you have the expectation that, oh, I'm eating very healthy, I have a high protein diet, but you're not doing the rest of the things, it's going to make it harder for you to get to the goals that you want to.
And as at the clinic, we really focus on the 4 pillars when we talk about health. So yes, there's a nutrition, like she said, it's one piece of the puzzle. The strength training and exercise is also
Super
very
important.
important. Sleep and stress management are also important, because if you're doing everything right, but you're not taking care of your stress levels, your sleep is neglected, then obviously that is also going to impact weight loss. So we've talked about it many times, and we know that sleep and stress do impact weight loss. So it's important that we address all of these 4 pillars. And a lot of times, going back to, some people coming to us and saying, oh, I've tried this and this and this before, and it's not working. Not only your body changes, age, hormone, but your lifestyle changes, your priorities changes, your stress level, responsibilities change. So we have to kind of tailor a program that's going to fit your lifestyle, and that's going to make it easier for you to maintain so that's when it becomes a problem, looking at other people or looking at social media, because if it's not something that you're going to be able to apply, then you're kind of going to be frustrated and just lose motivation.
Like, for example, if we have patients that have young children, for example, like if I were to tell this mom of 3 kids, let's say kids that are under 5 years old, if I were to tell this person, you have to wake up at 5:30 in the morning and get your workout in, and you need to have this amount, like, you need to eat this for breakfast. If I were to give the same plan to everybody, it's not going to be sustainable. You might be able to do it for a couple of weeks, but because it doesn't fit in their lifestyle, they're not going to be able to sustain it. They're not going to see the results because they can't stick to it long enough. They're going to lose motivation and they're going to give up. All of this would have been for nothing. And mind you, even if this person is on weight loss medication, so even if I were to prescribe weight loss medication, but they're not able to stick through the other 4 pillars, they're not going to get the results that they want. So,
And they might even see weight regain once
yes,
they stop the medication. So all the more important to really apply these 4 pillars with or without medication. Our patients get the same follow-up if they're with medication or without medication. They still have to put in the work. Another thing also is the reason why some people are not seeing results is because they have this all or nothing mentality.
yes.
So some patients, they come to us and they say, like, I don't have time to work out, or I don't have time to do this, so I just don't do it. We always kind of try to meet you where you're at. Okay, what is the amount of time per week that you can dedicate to this? What is a realistic frequency that you can put in for this? And we kind of meet you where you're at, and we work with what you have. So if you don't have time to do a 1 hour workout every day, if you do 20 minutes or 30 minutes, it's already better than nothing. So putting aside that mentality of, if it's not perfect, then I'm just not going to do it, then you're going to start to really see results, because you're putting in small amounts of time, but it's better than not putting anything at all. So I think that's one of the biggest pillars also why some patients have unrealistic expectations.
I think I'm a good example in the sense that before I had my baby, I would work out almost every day, and my workouts would be like 45 minutes to an hour. And I would never think, let's say, in my mindset was I can't do a workout that's less than 30 minutes or else it doesn't count. Right. But after I had my baby, a couple months later, when I was ready to start, getting back to movement, I saw that I had difficulty getting back to my 45 minutes to an hour workout because I hadn't worked out in a while, but B, because of lack of time and lack of sleep. So all of this together took a lot of work, mental work on my end to say, look, it's not an all or nothing mentality. Just like 20 minutes to 30 minutes, a couple of days a week is enough.
Do
And
whatever you can.
do whatever you can, lift weights. And I did see a change. I did see a progress. Even after I gave birth, I was able to gain muscle and lose fat. So It's not an all or nothing mentality. Little movements will make a difference as well.
I think that the cycle goes, the vicious cycle, I would say, goes having unrealistic expectations. Your expectations are not met. You're frustrated, demotivated, and then you kind of give up. You go through this cycle, then at some point, you stop everything. And at some point, you're like, okay, I want to kind of get back into it. You reset those unrealistic expectations and you go through this vicious cycle. So, we really try to break this cycle with our patients because we really tell them from the get go if you're planning on losing the weight and not just weight, obviously, regaining muscle mass, decreasing fat mass in 6 to 12 weeks, then this is not the right program for you. We really tell them that you need to foresee at least a year. Obviously, some people might see results before that, but we want to kind of set the bar low so they don't have that pressure of, okay, like if it's not in 12 weeks, if I haven't gotten to where I'm supposed to be, then this is not working. It's not because it's not working, it's because the expectations from the get go, sorry, are not realistic. So I think that's really important to really reinforce with our patients. And for sustainable weight loss, normally we would recommend anywhere between zero point 0.5 to 1 pound a week. Anything above that, if you're at the 1.5 to 2 pounds per week, it's really dramatic weight loss. And yes, you might see a big difference in the beginning, but at some point it's going to plateau. And at some point, you might actually see a weight regain once you stop doing what you're doing because it's not something that fits your lifestyle or it's not something that's sustainable. For us, normally anything above zero point 0.5 to 1 pound a week is too fast and it's too much.
Exactly. All this to say, unrealistic expectations can really set you back, even though you feel like you're doing everything right. So, if you are wondering if there's something that you're not doing right, if you need something that is more personalized, obviously, we're here to help. We have a medically led weight loss and longevity program. It is very personalized to each patient. We meet you where you are. So you can book an appointment. We're still taking patients, and we would be very happy to meet you.